João was 35 years old and lived in a small town in the interior of Portugal. Like so many others, his life was marked by the routine and stability of a job at the local factory where he worked as a laborer. Although it wasn't the job of his dreams, it allowed him to live relatively comfortably and ensure his basic needs were met. However, all of that changed suddenly. The factory where he worked closed down, and João, along with many of his colleagues, found himself unemployed overnight. In the months that followed the loss of his job, João faced a harsh reality. The bills kept coming, but job opportunities seemed non-existent. The economic crisis affected not only his region, but also the entire country, making the job search even more difficult. Initially, João held out hope of finding something quickly. But as the months passed and rejection letters accumulated, frustration and despair began to set in. Not knowing what to do, João spent hours and hours browsing the internet, looking for a solution, a way to turn his situation around. He knew he needed something that would set him apart, but his lack of experience in other areas limited his options. During one of these long research sessions, João stumbled upon videos about success stories of people who, through much effort and dedication, managed to change their lives. Inspired, he began to think about what he could do to follow a similar path. That's when he found a channel that offered free English lessons. At first, he hesitated. He had always believed that learning a new language, especially English, was beyond his reach. It was something he had never seriously considered, mainly because he thought it was too late to start. But at that moment, with so much free time and few alternatives, João decided to take the first step. Why not give it a try? He thought. He knew that English was a language that could open many doors, especially in the international job market. If he could learn the basics, maybe he could apply for jobs at companies looking for bilingual workers. This idea was what motivated him to start. In the beginning, the learning journey was not easy. João constantly felt frustrated. Sometimes the videos seemed complicated, and he could barely keep up. There were moments when he thought about giving up. How am I going to learn English if I don't even understand a word? He asked himself. However, each time he felt on the verge of quitting, he reminded himself of his situation and that he didn't have many options. Learning English, no matter how difficult, was one of the few solutions within his reach. This persistence, this determination to keep going, even on the hardest days, was what kept him on track. Slowly, João began to create a routine. He dedicated at least 1 hour a day to watching videos, repeating words, and writing simple sentences. The progress was slow but steady. Over time, he noticed that something was changing. Some words no longer seemed so strange, and short dialogue started to make sense. After a few months, João could already understand basic conversations and even respond with simple sentences in English. The confidence he gained with each new step forward was a boost to keep going. As he improved, João began to think about how he could use this new skill to find work. He knew that the global market valued people who spoke English, and this opened up new perspectives for him. He started looking for opportunities at international companies expanding in Portugal. One day, while browsing a job site, he found an ad that caught his attention. A multinational company was hiring for its logistics department, and one of the main requirements was speaking English. Still unsure about his level of fluency, João decided to take a chance. He prepared his resume and sent in his application. To his surprise, he was called for an interview. When he received the call, nerves took over. The idea of having to speak English in a job interview was intimidating, but he knew this could be his big opportunity. He decided to prepare as best he could. He watched videos, practiced sentences, and rehearsed answers. On the day of the interview, Yuan arrived at the company's office with a mix of anxiety and excitement. As the interview began, he felt nervous, but to his surprise, he managed to answer the basic questions in English. The interviewers were impressed with his effort and attitude, recognizing that although his English wasn't perfect, his determination and willingness to learn were valuable qualities. A few days later, Yuan received the news. He had been chosen for the position. From that moment on, Yuan's life began to change. The job at the multinational company was a stepping stone to a new phase in his career. Although the role was entry-level, Yuan saw it as a great opportunity to learn and grow. And that's exactly what he did. He continued studying English in his free time, practicing with his foreign colleagues, and taking advantage of all the resources he had at his disposal. In less than a year, his communication skills had improved significantly. His superiors noticed the effort Yuan was putting into both his work and learning the language. Not only was he becoming more fluent in English, but he also stood out for his skills in the logistics department. His hard work and dedication did not go unnoticed, and before long, Yuan was promoted to supervisor. This new responsibility gave him even more motivation to continue improving his language and professional skills. Yuan was no longer just the factory worker from a small town struggling to find a job. Now, he had a stable career at a multinational company, and his future looked bright. Over time, he was promoted again, this time to regional manager, responsible for a role required him to lead meetings with colleagues from different countries and participate in strategic decisions at an international level. It was at this stage that Yuan began to realize that learning English had not only been a tool to improve his financial situation, but also a gateway that opened the world to him. Now he could communicate with people from various cultures, understand different perspectives, and access knowledge that had previously been out of reach. This new reality expanded not only his professional opportunities, but also his worldview. In the following months, Yuan began accessing international content that had previously been inaccessible to him. Articles, books, and documentaries that fed his curiosity and helped him grow even more as a professional and as a person. He discovered that mastering English gave him access to an endless amount of information and knowledge that wasn't available in his native language. As his career progressed, Yuan was invited to participate in a management training program in London. This international experience was a turning point in his life. Not only did he have the opportunity to learn from some of the best professionals in his field, but he also connected with people from all over the world. This training gave him new tools to implement improvements in the logistics department of his company. And when he returned to Portugal, he applied many of the practices he had learned. These improvements led to a significant increase in the department's efficiency, resulting in cost savings for the company. The success of these changes earned Yuan further recognition from his superiors, and once again he was promoted. Now he was managing teams and strategies on an international level, something that, years before, he never would have imagined possible. As Yuan reflected on his journey, he felt incredibly proud. English, which at first seemed like an almost insurmountable barrier, had become the key to all the opportunities he had achieved. He realized that with effort and determination, even the most difficult moments could be turned into stepping stones for a better future. What had initially started as a desperate attempt to change his life ended up being the turning point that allowed him to build a life of success and fulfillment. Over time, Yuan became an inspiring figure in his community. Friends and family, seeing his transformation, began to ask him how he had managed to turn his situation around and achieve so much success. He always responded with humility, explaining that the first step had been deciding to learn English, something that initially seemed impossible, but ended up being the catalyst for all the opportunities that followed. Inspired by the positive impact that English had on his life, Yuan decided to help others follow the same path. He started organizing informal sessions in his town, where he shared the free resources that had helped him learn. He created a small study group, where he encouraged others to dedicate themselves to learning English, even if only for a few minutes a day. Zhuo knew from personal experience that every small step counts, and that the important thing was to stay motivated. His influence began to spread, and Yuan became seen as a reference. Eventually, he was invited by the town council to give a talk on the importance of continuous education and language learning. For someone who, in the beginning, had been afraid to speak in public, this invitation was a transformative moment. He took to the stage with the confidence of someone who knew his words could inspire real change in people's lives. At the end of his talk, Wang received a standing ovation. His journey from unemployed laborer to international manager was living proof that effort and dedication can transform lives. For Zhuang, the greatest success wasn't the career he had built or the travels he had experienced, but the ability to inspire others to believe in their own potential. Looking toward the future, Yuan remained determined to learn and evolve. He realized that the journey of personal growth is continuous, and that learning a new language was just the first step on a much longer, richer path. He had not only rebuilt himself, but had also helped others do the same, showing that with determination, it's possible to turn obstacles into great opportunities.